questions? Oh, did you have a final?
Well, in conclusions, and I also concerned about the long-range planning committees. They have identified over $250 million in capital aid, and that's what the board in 2011 put the 3B initiative, but it was rejected. However, buildings still need to be prepared, and a safe environment and good sound environment is still important. So there's something that we also need to get a community back together and try to how we can address the long-term need for the capital improvement. So in summary, I believe that as a volunteer and a small successful business owner with my IT expertise, and I also used to teach at the university, and I believe that with all those skills, I can complement the board's current skill level and move forward to help the student of Dallas County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Director Silverthorne.
Thanks for coming tonight, Kevin. I appreciate it. I just have a question. You said earlier that you, I understand you're a minority, and you talked about the minority perspective, and you talked about the British background, the British educational background that you have, and you talked about filling a gap. I have two questions. I'm interested in knowing what gap you would like to fill. As a minority on the board who was also spent 3 years in the British curriculum, I'm really interested in hearing, first of all, the gap you talked about, what you think you would fill, what your perspective is on that. And two, being in the British curriculum, I also have some thoughts about the British, what that would look like here. What lessons you might think we would learn from that. So I'm, with that familiar perspective, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Dr. Silverthorne, thanks for the questions, and I'm so glad to see that you feel much better.
Thank you.
I grew up in Hong Kong, which was a British colony my entire life. And there's a couple of things that the British do that are a little bit different. In fact, a little bit about the European system. And over there, we always have a big respect for teachers. Okay? And the job satisfactions of the teaching professions is very high, and they also get relatively high pay. The teacher can be as well paid as an engineer over there, which our teacher, in my belief, is underpaid for the kind of job that they're doing. And so that's one thing that I'm looking into is, and it's also one of the reasons why they say that the finance system is successful, is because they get the best college student and then get them to be the teacher and then pay them accordingly. And you have to have a good mentor, right, to be able to get a good student. And that's one thing that the European system, some European countries at least, is very good at, that I want to get that implement in here. And secondly, where I come from, in Asia, the Confucius system is deep down and deep rooted, in the culture. I'm so Director Richardson used to be ambassador of Japan and knows, that sort of things. Okay. So, how we could make our student, respect, the teacher, and try to for them to understand that teaching, learning is important, for their future. I think before, maybe 50, 60 years ago, U.S. people get a very good living without having a degree, and maybe not even graduate from high school. But this is not the time anymore. We have to kind of change our cultural shift of some of the groups, some of the people, to try to make sure that they understand that education is very important and it's the key to successful. And that is some of the challenge, especially in some of the group that the concept is not really that deep root. So that's the second thing that I would like to, see that those kind of things will be changed. And the third, if you go to look at the system, everybody is a stakeholder. The teacher, the principal, the parents, the governments, okay? We all sit together in a table. They're trying to make the best, decisions. And I'm going to use the word that I'm sure that you're going to tweak tomorrow and say that Kevin is ABC. But everybody should have a table, that including, whatever organizations that the teacher decided for, okay? I'm a firm believer of, freedom of associations. If somebody decides that, they want to have an organization to represent them, it doesn't really matter to me, and the board deal with one of the transportation unions and with no problem. But the problem is that we have to get everybody together. It doesn't really matter where they're from. There's a very famous Chinese saying, it doesn't really matter whether you're a black cat or white cat, as long as you catch the mouse, it's a good cat. So getting a stakeholder all together, doesn't really matter what their background is and things like that. So everybody can sit down and get their opinions, go across, and we truly get a great community together and form opinions that everybody, can live with. It's the most important things. I believe that 2 years ago, President Carson, had a great success working with different, people, and he's even in the news. You guys praise each other. There's no reason why, the district need to get into that sort of fight. Everybody need to sit together, and everybody need to have a